Welcome to the Fantasy Football Report, our kickoff week 1. We're finally back. New time, same great faces. How's it going, Hasan?
Man, we're just out here living the dream, really taking in week 1. There's a lot going on. A lot of stuff that we were right on, a lot of stuff we were wrong on. It's all good, man. How's it going with you? How do you like week 1? How's it been for you?
Week 1 has been a ton of fun. A lot of big scores that I'm loving. A lot of breakout performances, I think, or well, at least I count them. When Benjamin has one rush for like 15 yards, I say that's a win.
Yeah. Fun times. I've been on a long tangent about Cliff Kingsbury on my Twitter timeline. You can find me at HRR5010. And someone tweeted at me about 20 minutes ago. I was putting together the show sheet. You suck, and it's like you followed me, and I guess I lost a follower, so that's good.
He stopped.
Yeah, he unfollowed me, but it's like I was ready for some more heat than just you suck.
He's got a good point though.
He does have a really good point about me sucking. But my suckitude isn't as big as that of Cliff Kingsbury, who is putting together a masterclass. Just to give you guys a heads up, we're recording this. The afternoon games are still going on. The Cardinals are losing 37-15 in the fourth quarter. Mahomes is absolutely clowning on them. Just to tell you how bad things are right now, Edwards-Helaire has 2 touchdowns. And these guys are just moving the ball at them on will. Patrick Mahomes has piled up like 5 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, one thing that I actually did want to talk about on this game. I mean, I think when Rondale Moore was out, when we found out about his hamstring injury, then you kind of start to ask where are the receiving yards going to come from in this game? But
they're coming from Greg Dorch, man.
Greg Dorch, 9 targets, 7 catches, 63 yards. Is this for real? Dorch was someone that I was a big fan of coming out of college.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you were very, very high on Dorch, and I think this is it. Oh my goodness! And there's another. Pacheco just scores a rushing touchdown here.
Who did?
Isaiah Pacheco.
Oh,
I scored a rushing touchdown.
All right, so we're more.
This is like an apps. Like if this is an indictment against Cliff Kingsbury and Stephen Keim getting that extension, like just disastrous. AJ Green is absolutely dusted. AJ, like he is totally dust. Ertz is dust, and it just looks like Greg Dorch is that guy. Like Andy Isabella, isn't it? I remember you were big on Dorch. Do you mind reminding our listeners as to what it is about Dorch that drew you to him?
Dorch is he was really productive in college, Wake Forest, and he also was a true early declare. Technically a redshirt sophomore early declare, but we still count that. The thing that I guess is keeping him, why he's only relevant now that Arizona has no one else is because he's like 5'7", 150 pounds, but and not particularly fast, like 4.5 40 or something like that. But he showed that he could do it in college, so I'm excited to see what he can do here. But I mean, Greg Dorch notwithstanding, are you like, how concerned are you for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals passing game?
I've always kind of been semi-tilted about this like passing game because they run the horizontal raid. Like it truly is just a disaster. Like watching them play is bad. Okay, like this is not like they got Marquise Brown, and he's only seen the ball 4 times. He's got 3 of those targets for 41 yards and a score. Then they've been like, Kyler has relentlessly targeted James Conner and Eno Benjamin. I mean, like you got Zach Ertz running routes, you got AJ Green running routes, and you got Andy Isabella running routes. These are 3 guys who have not been particularly good for a couple of years now. I mean, we know Green is dusted. We know Ertz is dusted. Typically, the time to play these dusty veterans is early on in the season, but they're not getting it done now. And so if you've been drafting them at all as your final round, like dart throws, I think from a waiver perspective, these guys got to go, man. Like these guys have to go. There's just no juice left, I think. Which sounds like an overreaction, but in my opinion, you just have to move quickly on waivers early, especially in high stakes leagues where the season really isn't 16, 17 weeks long. It's really 12 weeks long. Even in season long leagues, there are guys who you should be considering. One of those guys, and this is very important right now, is he plays for the Chargers. Ben Gretsch has been on him. His name is DeAndre Carter. And you guys got to get out and get DeAndre Carter on your rosters instead of a dust ball. Just to give you guys a heads up, Keenan Allen hurt his hamstring. He was rolling around. He was rolling at the time. He had 4 catches on 4 of his targets for 66 yards and no scores. That was it. DeAndre Carter shows up. He gets 4 targets. He catches 3 of those for 64 yards and a score. So you're looking at a guy who is like outplaying Josh Palmer right now. Palmer also has 4 targets, and he's got 3 of those targets for 5 yards, right? Mike Williams saw 4 targets. He's got 2 of those for 10 yards. So these are the kind of moves you want to be making on guys who have high upside like DeAndre Carter, especially as a wide receiver 3 play, because you want to drop dusty guys and you want to pick up guys who have a lot of life, a lot of juice to them.
Do you think that Carter has a long-term role here if Allen is out for, I don't know, a few weeks with this hamstring thing, or would you expect Mike Williams to see more work? I mean, early in the season last year, he was getting like 11, 12 targets.
Yeah,
Mike Williams.
I think Williams is just going to bounce back. Like right now, this is a very flat passing tree. There's no receiver who has above 4 targets. But I'm willing to gamble that in the short run, Carter might actually make a good case to be a plug and play receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, yeah, I would like to definitely see more targets from Williams than the 4. And I mean, Gerald Everett looked really good on his.
He's looking good.
Targets. Caught that 1 touchdown and 54 yards, I think he has so far.
Yeah,
still
and
minutes left in that game, right?
Yeah. There's still time. So that's like one of the caveats that we will give you guys. There is a lot of time in these afternoon games, so we're trying to react as we can. Unfortunately, we went a little off script because we started reacting to these games as they come into an end. So I'll dial it back a little bit, and we can start going back to some of the other games. So we saw this.
Arizona comes back and wins.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Just Cliff Kingsbury, not that guy, guys. He's just not that guy. So I did want to talk a little bit about this because this was a funnish game. It went into OT, came down to the last field goal, but Deontay Johnson got 7 of 12 targets for 55 yards in the Steelers' week 1 win over the Bengals. Blair, I really wanted to get your thoughts here on Deontay. You know, we saw a lot of analysts spent this offseason deriding him as a product of Ben Roethlisberger. And, week 1, we're just seeing him pick up exactly where he left off. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we all expected Deontay to keep earning targets at a high rate. The stat line here is kind of empty, only 55 yards on 12 targets and no touchdowns. He did look good. He had that one really nice catch at the end in overtime, I think. But you're going to want more production, I would assume, out of your 4th round pick, right? So I like Deontay. I'm a little concerned that he's gonna struggle with efficiency in this offense.
I think the Steelers are going to be moving on from Trubisky soon, brother. Like, I just have a weird feeling that the fans are not going to stand for this. I mean, they're probably happy because they won, but there is a lot of meat left on the bone. And given that Kenny Pickett is a hometown guy, like, I can see the fans clamoring for Trubisky's head the second things go wrong. Yeah. I will say what was interesting to me was how creative the play calling truly was. They were fairly aggressive when it came down to passing the football. Mitch Trubisky had 38 pass attempts, right? the guy who I thought that they did a good job with was Chase Claypool, getting him into space, using him kind of in that halfback role. We saw a lot of that. We saw some Jalen Warren late. There's murmurs that Najee Harris suffered a pretty serious injury. This is all hearsay, so don't shoot the messenger, please. But there were beat reporters speculating that it could be a Liz Frank injury, in which case Jalen Warren becomes your priority, instant, early season ad. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of heard that. It sounded like the news was more positive, but that would obviously be.
Yeah, but there's like boots on the ground type stuff here. I will say what was really odd to me, at least what I've been pretty negative on all off season, was taking George Pickens at cost. He got one of his 3 targets for 3 yards. He looked like the wide receiver 6 in the pecking order, like behind even Zach Gentry. I mean, Miles Boykin also got a target, So I think that he just, people were too aggressive on him too early, which is interesting because we're hitting the point where we're seeing a lot of rookie mania come roaring back, especially in crowded passing offenses. I was slamming a lot of Pat Freiermuth. I can never get that right. And so I wanted to get your thoughts because he got 5 of his 10 targets for 75 yards.
Yeah, I was really encouraged by this game from Freiermuth. He led the team in yards and ended up scoring as many points as Deontay Johnson. So I think you've got to be pretty excited if you were taking Freiermuth with this outing. Obviously, it could have been better. 12.5 points is not going to win any weeks for you, but you had a touchdown in there, and you're looking pretty good. I think 10 targets is what's most encouraging about this.
Yeah, Joe King does mention that Pickens had an end zone target. Thank you. That is interesting. Again, Pickens is someone who, from a best ball perspective, you're gonna see him come alive down this later in the season. You're also gonna see he's a guy who you want to hold in your team. He's not someone you just want to drop. You know what I mean? So give it time.
Yeah, I'm definitely holding Pickens. I mean, this obviously is not what you want to see. You'd like to have your rookies hit the ground running, but we also know that rookie receiver roles and running back roles, rookie roles tend to grow as the season progresses. So I think this is not it's not yet time to panic on Pickens.
No, it's not. So just as a heads up, Ertz just got a touchdown.
The comeback is starting.
The Cardinals are coming back, or are they?
I do want to talk about the Bengals side of this game a bit too, because
oh man, that's an interesting side. Yeah,
Higgins went down early with a concussion.
Terrible.
We don't.
It was a terrible. I saw the replay, and it was a bad hit, very bad hit.
Yeah, I think there was some talk that there might be targeting or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
In any case, yeah. So he obviously did not play most of this game. He might miss more weeks than just this. Yeah. We don't know yet. But I mean, Jamar Chase was targeted 16 times without him on the field. Caught 10 of those for 129 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, we know he's the best, but is the passing offense outside of Chase did not look that good. I think Burrow threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
How much does Higgins' absence play a role in that? How concerned should we be about Burrow if Higgins does miss a lot of time? Or is this just a blip?
Not too concerned because Burrow was able to do it last year too. He was kind of fine without Higgins. So I'm not too worried. It does make Hayden Hurst a very viable streaming option at tight end. Sorry?
RotoViz airwaves, Hayden Hurst, a streaming option.
I know, yeah. It's a brand new era, fellas. We're here touting Hayden Hurst. The bad Michael Thomas is somehow still in the league, and he saw 5 targets. I have no interest in that. But my God, man, I feel bad for the Bengals. At this point, I'm really hoping that Higgins, we'll see him sooner rather than later, because this is tough. This is a tough scene for everyone involved. Boyd becomes that contingency, gets that contingency upside that Ben Gresh has been talking about a lot all off season. So, it is interesting. I think Samaje Perine, we might see him more in the field. Mixon also saw 9 targets, and he caught 7 of them for 63 yards.
Yeah,
these are eye-popping numbers. I think some game script had a lot to do with it, but
for sure. There was a point in the game when Boyd looked like he might have got hurt, like they were working on his leg on the sideline, but I think he was back in after that. But for those few plays when he was out, they had Perine lined up out wide, which was a really interesting development, and would be something that would be pretty interesting to see more of for those of us who were taking Perine in the 18th round.
Yeah, Samaje Perine, the hurry up and passing down back, not like that's the most surprising development.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he fits the mold, but he's kind of interesting. 33 yards and 5 targets today, not bad.
I wanted to flip it over to the Ravens, if only because Devin Duvernay got 4 of 4 targets for 54 yards and 2 scores. Like, what's going on over there? I mean, we knew the Ravens were going to beat the Jets, but Devin Duvernay?
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, you're not like going out and picking up Duvernay after this unless you're really desperate, right?
No, man. I mean, not that. Like, I think I dropped him off every dynasty team. and just so people know, like, these are 14-team dynasty leagues that I'm talking about with 30 roster spots each.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he can provide value, and this is likely to be the best receiving game he's going to have all season. But he's always going to be active because he's a special teams guy, so he's going to see the field. And the Ravens don't have a lot of other receiving weapons, so I think even though it's a little fluky, I don't want to necessarily write it off completely. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I agree with you. It's just when you look at it, Demarcus Robinson got 4 targets. Rashad Bateman also only had 5 targets. That was the interesting one for me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He got 2 of them for 59 yards and a score. I really hope he's not used as an exclusive deep threat, because that would really not be fun for especially where people were taking him.
Yeah. This was the one game that I really was watching today all the way through. And if I recall, he obviously caught that one long touchdown. Other than that, he wasn't used exclusively deep, but he was thrown a few balls that were just uncatchable by Lamar Jackson. So it was kind of unfortunate, the looks he got, but you would hope that he'd get more than 5 targets in any case. Probably against a team that's not the Jets, you'd see more of an up-tempo script. On the other hand, we might see J.K. Dobbins return soon. He was close to being active today. So if he's back, then who knows what'll happen.
Flacco threw the ball 59 times today, by the way. Michael Carter had 10 carries for 60 yards, and Breece Hall only had 6 for 23. I will say what's interesting is there's a few things on the Jets side that I find interesting. Michael Carter with 9 targets. He caught 7 of those for 40 yards. Breece Hall with 10 targets. He's got 6 of those for 38 yards. Corey Davis with 9 targets, 6 receptions for 77 yards. Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson also factored in, but those 2 guys were behind, but had the same number of targets as Tyler Conklin. So, like, I think the elevated target count has to do with how many times Flacco threw the ball. But are you buying this Corey Davis stuff? Because he came on pretty hot, pretty late last year.
Yeah, I mean, he'll definitely have a role, I think, for sure. He's not probably someone, I mean, if he's available in your league and you're desperate at wide receiver, and it's a pretty deep league, he's probably worth trying to add. But I'm still more excited about Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. I think both of them were were closer to scoring at the end of that game than it ended up going to Conklin, but they both had looks close to the end zone. Moore actually did catch one, but it was called back on a penalty. So these are, those are the two guys that I would still look to kind of take the next step and break out. And Corey Davis, I think, yeah. I mean, he'll continue to get targets, but are they going to be the type of targets you need to put up big scores? Probably not.
Yeah,
enough.
That becomes a concern. I did want to talk a little bit about like this the Falcons and the Saints. What's become a little bit of a troubling trend, at least for me, is Alvin Kamara. He rushed 9 times for 39 yards in the Saints' Week 1 win over the Falcons. He also hit the ball thrice for only 7 additional yards. This is a guy who got a lot of late steam. And he just hasn't looked the same. No injury at all. What are we doing here with Kamara? Like, do you think this holds? What comes of it?
Yeah, I think this is probably a little bit concerning if you drafted Kamara. I hesitate to read too much into it just yet. I think, I mean, Taysom Hill getting 4 carries, including a touchdown, is not what you want to see when you drafted Kamara. So it's definitely a concern. I don't quite know what to make of the Saints offense with Jameis Winston. I don't know if they really are going to be like explosive. I mean, they're going to be targeting Jarvis Landry over Olave and Michael Thomas. I mean, maybe.
I mean, Landry looked good, man. He got not like 7 of his 9 targets for 114 yards. That's pretty intense. Michael Thomas also looked pretty good. He had 57 yards and 5 catches. But he scored twice, right? Which is what you're expecting. I mean, like, Kamara was pretty disappointing today from like a first round perspective. He's put like, these are just a lot of empty calorie stats, kind of sink your team type of stuff where you were taking him, especially over some of the players you had to take him over. Not too bad. But speaking of another guy who we all liked and were taking really, really high was Kyle Pitts, who had 7 targets. He got 2 of those for 19 yards. Mm-hmm. This is like, that is, I think the 7 targets is nice. That's probably sticky. But man, that was not great. Not great. I mean, you got to start converting those because Drake London is coming for that role, because he got 5 of his 7 targets for 74 yards and no scores. But like over the course of the season, you could see them continuing to target London because he's coming off that injury. He looked good, man. He looked like the truth.
Yeah, he looked good. I'm not too concerned about this stat line for Pitts. I think that hopefully what you'd see is both London and Pitts continue to draw the bulk of the targets, and guys like Zacchaeus and Kaderil Hodge will not be as involved as they were. I mean, they had only 7 targets between them, but I mean, what it looks like is Mariota is going to run the ball more than we thought. Cordero Patterson had 22 carries in this game as well. Maybe Atlanta just wants to run the ball if they can, but my hope is that they try to be a little bit more explosive, and maybe they will have to against different teams.
I mean, I think today they just were able to do that. So I think part of it is, one, it's pretty dope to see Mariota look like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is the guy who we were drafting years ago. Like, this is what we thought, right? Yeah. He also had a rushing touchdown. So like, this is kind of what we wanted out of Mariota. Just a sick player. Like, I've been rooting for him for a long time. I know the party's over. If there's any of you guys who are Mariota truthers in secret, this is like the beacon that's going out. We're here. We're still alive. Our spirits, we remain unbroken. That said, Damian Williams got hurt like on the second drive of the game.
Yeah.
Right. Like they didn't have, and Tyler Algier was like a healthy scratch. I think we're gonna see Algier get some run next week. And that will be interesting to see how that works out. But for now, for as long as Mariota's hammies are intact and he's healthy, I can see this RPO stuff working for them pretty nicely.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So next week they're at the Los Angeles Rams, which, the Rams maybe didn't look that good against Buffalo, but you would expect them to come out and play a little better against Atlanta's defense. So that might be a game where if the Rams can put up some points, we could see a little bit more explosive offense from Atlanta, which would be interesting. And seeing Algier get some run, seeing London and Pitts get more targets. I think, London coming off this injury after playing basically no preseason except for one catch.
Barely, yeah.
Yeah, to see him play this well and get 7 targets is a really good sign, because I would expect that he's going to continue to improve on that. So yeah, I'm super excited for London going forward.
All right, so and I'm sorry to be a running clock on this one, like a broken clock, but like the Cardinals gave up. They brought out Trace McSorley. Wave the red flag, white flag. Cliff Kingsbury should have to walk home. It's a shame this game is in like Arizona, because he should have had to walk all the way home. But we can discuss that game later. Yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely interested to see how this team looks with Mariota for as long as it does. And just keep in mind that they have Ritter looked good in preseason, so I'm not too worried about the two alphas in this offense in London and Pitts. I mean, I'm a little nervous about Pitts because of just how high he got steamed up, but
yeah,
we'll just have to see, because he was a little disappointing here in the early going, but London was such a smash in the later rounds. Like he was just such a smash.
Yeah.
Here's some fun stuff. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're gonna have to get to this in a little bit, because the guy who started off the season as the undisputed 101 started sliding to 102, 103. Jonathan Taylor, he had 31 carries for 161 yards and a score. He also caught 4 of his 7 targets for 14 yards in the Colts' tie against the Texans. So I wanted to get your thoughts, Blair, on JT versus CMC, and are you worried because CMC really didn't look like the guy who we've come to expect?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you would have to prefer Taylor after week 1. I mean, not only did McCaffrey not rush that well, he had only 33 yards on 10 carries. He did score though, but he also didn't get a ton of targets. He was targeted 4 times. Mayfield only threw the ball 27 times, which, I guess the game was, well, they were losing most of the game, so I don't know why that happened, but yeah, that's definitely a concern. I think it says more about how Carolina's offense is going to be and how messy that's going to be than about maybe McCaffrey's talent, but that's kind of unfortunate. I think, honestly, Taylor getting this kind of workload or getting this kind of stat line is even a little bit surprising in Indianapolis. But
yep, exactly. I agree, because it's not that condensed of a target share, right? Over there, like we saw some stuff here. Hang on, let me just pull this game up, because
Matt Ryan attempted 50 passes, so
he also looked really bad, like fumbling and dropping snaps and here and there, right? Pittman saw 13 targets. He did a good job. 9 for 121 in his score. Paris Campbell saw 4 targets, 3 for 37. Ashton Doolin saw 6. Naheem Hines saw 6. Like everyone kind of got involved. Something called Kyden Granson was on the field, who saw 7 targets. What position did this guy even play?
Tight end.
They should have fed Mo Ali Cox. Alec Pierce saw a lot of steam late, and he only saw 2 targets, right? He did nothing with them. So That's a bit of concern. The other rookie on the other team, the Texans, who saw a lot of steam late, was Dameon Pierce, who had 11 carries for 33 yards, no scores. Also, only got his one target for 6 yards, no scores. Handily outplayed by Burkhead, who had 14 carries and 40 yards, and also caught 5 of his 8 targets for 30 yards. I only have this in here because I kind of do want to laugh at the people who are chasing this Pierce steam. Just, I mean, it was just I don't know, man. Like you saw his ADP just kind of climbing, and like anyone who has seen that movie before is like, that's bait, that's a trap, you know, like Mad Max Fury Road, that's bait. That's like, that was what that was, man.
Pierce is a guy that I was mildly interested to watch in week 1, only because he's someone that I drafted absolutely 0 of the entire draft season. I have a little in like really late shares in Dynasty, but as soon as he started to get steamed, I was off. But that was one where it would have been a big miss for me if he had looked good. So I mean, yeah, I guess I'm a little relieved that he didn't look good. Do you think that Houston goes back to him? Do you think this is Burkhead's backfield?
I think it's going to be the same split. I think they're going to go. I think Houston's like, they're kind of here to go back to him. He's gonna take over eventually, but like I really don't think that he should have been going where he was in late FFPC drafts. Like there was a lot of him going at that like very early in the high leverage rounds. He shouldn't have been there. And I will add one thing about the joking mentioned about the Cleveland defense. Yes, they were probably a factor against CMC. Like they really probably were keyed in on that. So I do agree with that.
Yeah,
because Robbie Anderson like lit them up, man. Like he got like 5 of his 8 targets for 102 yards and a score, right? And Ian Thomas also lit them up. It looked like the defense did a good job clamping down on Moore and McCaffrey here, and they dared them to try and win with Robbie Anderson and Ian Thomas, and they were okay with that, right? But the reason I bring this up is because, Blair, you've been really pounding the table on this, is that DPJ was the real wide receiver 1 on the Browns all along. He caught 6 of his 11 targets for 60 yards. And I'm buying into your theory that Amari Cooper is just a guy, right? Like he caught 3 of his 6 targets for 17 yards.
Not a theory. It's a fact. It's the truth.
I know. I mean, like this is the fact.
I don't know. I mean, after this, like I'm encouraged as someone who owns quite a few DPJ shares.
Yes, you do. It's very tilting playing against you when you have all that like DPJ in all these 14 team leagues.
Yeah, like the final pick in a lot of leagues. I mean, I don't know that I'm ready to defend these kind of empty 60 yards, but I mean, he led the team in targets and it wasn't even close. Cooper had 6. He was the next guy. And nobody else even had more than 4. So, I mean, I think that's an encouraging development for DPJ. It'll be interesting to see how much of that carries forward in future weeks. But
I wanted to go back to like running backs a little bit, right? Just because James Robinson came off a very late season Achilles tear, and look, I've jokingly been saying that his name should be J God, not J Rob, because he's like a legitimate UDFA godly runner, and he might just have that God in him, man. He had 11 carries for 66 yards and a score. He also had 1 target that was a touchdown, and it really looked like Etienne was in the receiving role of this backfield, like not really on the field very much. Like full disclosure, I smashed Etienne under 12.5 rushing attempts live, like in the first drive. Just looking at what the usage was. I wanted to get your take. Like Etienne saw 4 targets, got 2 of those for 18 yards. He only had 4 carries, 47 yards. Big play. How do you see this backfield shaking out as we go along this season?
I mean, I still think Etienne is the guy. Robinson looked good today, although ETN did have more. He was a little bit more efficient in terms of yards per carry. And he also does appear to be the pass catcher, which is not insignificant. He kind of had an unfortunate fumble out of bounds at the end that brought his yardage total way down. Well, not way down, but made his receiving line look a lot worse. But yeah, I'm not ready to give up on ETN yet. Obviously, you would like to see him be used a little bit more in, kind of high leverage situations. But you also, I think, if it turns out that Robinson is going to have kind of a between the 20s role, and then ETN is more of the pass catcher, as long as he gets some goal line touches, then maybe that's okay. Yeah, Joe King brings up ETN had a couple blunders.
Not good. I mean, that's not good when you're competing, when you can't beat out a guy who's coming off an Achilles, because on the other hand, we saw what Cam Akers looked like coming off an Achilles. It's not good. It's not good. I mean, like he is all but lost that job to Henderson, and like I don't know how James Robinson looks as good coming off an Achilles, but I mean, here we are, and maybe I kind of regret maybe taking a lot of like ETN in the dead zone. Like so far, it's feeling like, man, the dead zone really has been destroying as it should. And it's only week 1, so it's hard like not to overreact or but like this is what we have to kind of react to, because we have to temper expectations here. Like J.K. Dobbins going in the dead zone didn't play. Travis Etienne going in the dead zone puts up maybe like we have him on an FFPC team, so I'll just pull up his score.
8.5.
There you go. Cam Akers got completely run over by a guy who was going in the 13th round. Like it's almost like a mnemonic where what was that movie where the guy writes on him, Memento, just where you want to write in yourself, just like writing no dead zone RBs every year.
Yeah.
Like it almost just feels like that to me, where you just are like, yeah, one or two exceptions, but it's like,
yeah. I mean, I think if you drafted Breece Hall, you're a little bit concerned that Michael Carter was getting so much work. If you drafted ETN, you might be a little concerned that Robinson was getting so much work. Although, we're having a debate in our chat about how bad it really was, and I think there's still hope for ETN.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to not overreact because we finally have live action to react to. But like we knew this was always going to be the issue, and hopefully, ETN does get it going, because I was always a fan of his. I've always been a fan of what he can do. He's got like that Swift, Dalvin Cook kind of ability, right? But I wanted to talk a little bit about like a rookie first round wide receiver on the other side who wasn't getting a lot of respect for quite a lot of time. And he was a phenomenal late pick in best ball with Jahan Dotson, who caught 3 of his 5 targets for 40 yards and 2 scores. I mean, this was easy, right? Like the cheapest way to play the Commanders if you needed a wide receiver was Dotson. And I'm really hoping our listeners and everybody out there has a good amount of Dotson late, because he was cheap.
Yeah, Dotson looked good. For what it's worth, he was 4th on the team in targets behind Curtis Samuel, Antonio Gibson, and Logan Thomas. So, I mean, obviously after this performance, you'd expect for them to look his way more often. But Samuel also caught a touchdown. Seems like he's going to be a factor. Gibson with 8 targets is something, we've been waiting to see for a long time. If you were able to get Gibson pretty late this year, that's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be enough passes to go around in this offense for Dotson to really build on this performance?
I mean, he was so cheap. You don't really need him to do much more than this, right? Like, it'll be tough to trust him in managed leagues. Yes, maybe it'll be a little bit easier once we start getting to those heavy bye weeks. But I mean, outside of that, like this is fantastic for your best ball teams.
Yeah,
like he was so cheap in best ball.
If you drafted Dotson in a managed league in like the 16th round,
yeah,
probably have a lot of other receivers that you can start over him. But would you consider starting Dotson in week 2?
No. There's just better options that you've got that like you don't want to go away from. It's as stupid as it sounds, but like you don't want to like give up on a bunch of these guys unless you're facing like a bad situation like with T. Higgins or a Keenan who's not going to play.
Yeah.
And you really or you're a deep dog where you really need that upside.
Yeah.
Because I can see this going like right back to Terry. Logan Thomas was on the field a good chunk. He might be an interesting waiver candidate for TE premium leagues.
Well, this game, the latest news I think on Brian Robinson is that he might be available in week 5. He's going to come back and have a role. I mean, Gibson looked pretty good. He didn't fumble once, which is least you can ask for. But he also was really good in the receiving game. So
and this is kind of what Ron Rivera was saying, right? This is what he was like. He's been very heavily suggesting that like Gibson's role is a receiver, and like it makes sense. Gibson was a receiver, and like that's exciting because this is what you get to see. Like, I mean, if this is what you're getting out of Gibson is like this pseudo RB2 at where we were getting him like later in the season, man, that's just like a screaming value. I don't think I'd like him even if I had him on my roster as an RB2 in that 4th round range, but like where he was going late 8th, 9th, I'm hoping all the listeners like absolutely stocked up on him where they could have, because it was just stupid value at that point. People didn't really adjust after the incident with Brian Robinson. So, I mean, it is what it is. I really don't want to talk about this next game very much. So we should just sort of skirt by this. Because I need someone to talk me down. All right. So facing a monsoon, Trey Lance completed 13 of his 28 pass attempts for no touchdowns and an interception, but he also added 54 yards on the ground on 13 rush attempts, right? So Blair, this was the thesis, right? So tell me why I'm so disappointed right now in Trey Lance.
Well, I don't think this was exactly the thesis. I think we knew that Lance could do it on the ground and could score points with his legs. I think we were also hoping that he'd be able to do a little bit with his arm and give us some points through the air. So yeah, it was kind of disappointing to see how poorly the passing game looked in this game. Obviously, not having George Kittle on the field makes a difference. The kind of weather conditions make a big difference. But yeah, nobody, Debo didn't get it done even with that rushing touchdown. He probably didn't give you what you needed based on where he was going. Ayuk only had 2 targets. He caught both of them for 40 yards, but obviously not enough. And Elijah Mitchell injured.
Yeah. Mitchell was a serious one because they ruled him out almost instantly with that knee issue. Yeah. So that probably means Tyrion Davis-Price should be active next week. We're going to see what's his name, Jeff Wilson. Yeah, I'm pretty bullish now on Trey Lance. I need to talk it out, right? Also, Resif mentions 28 pass attempts is kind of promising, and I was like, that doesn't sound like a lot. But then looking at the game log, Justin Fields only had 17 pass attempts. So yeah, that is very promising. I would like to see
those teams are probably not ones you expect to throw the ball a lot, but it does make you wonder if the conditions on the field might have had a big impact on how willing teams were to throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, and it kind of says a lot because when you look at Darnell Mooney, like his stat line, 3 targets, 1 catch, 8 yards. Not
Mm-hmm.
great. Just not
Yeah.
great. David Montgomery had the most targets on the team, 4 of those for 3 catches and 24 yards.
Yeah.
But Khalil Herbert showed up and looked like a I think he's going to be pushing for a real 50-50 split soon.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked obviously a little bit better than Montgomery running the ball anyway.
Yeah, those targets in the passing game will come though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I mean, obviously this game was kind of weird because of the weather, but do you think that
Charlie,
how much does this tell us about how Chicago wants to run their offense,
Yeah, no, it absolutely does, and I apologize for that because my dog was barking, so I just had to stop her. So just now all the afternoon games are concluded, but we didn't have a chance to touch on the Lions and the Eagles. Goff completed 21 of the 37 passes for 215 yards, 2 scores, and an int. Didn't look particularly good. Not many of the Lions players, unfortunately, did. I did want to just sort of point out that Amon-Ra saw 12 targets. He got 8 of those for 64 yards and a score, so that's pretty heartening. But also, DJ Chark looked good. Got 4 of his 8 targets for 52 yards and a score. Blair, did anything stand out to you from this receiving game or possibly even the rushing game?
Yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra getting those targets is obviously pretty nice, but I thought DeAndre Swift had a pretty good game on the ground, so that was good to see as well. It's kind of, you wonder how Detroit put up 35 points when Goff looked so bad, but obviously this offense is a little bit more explosive than we maybe had anticipated, or it's as explosive as I had hoped, and hopefully we'll get some more passing touchdowns coming soon. I'm excited to see Jameson Williams come back finally.
I am too, but I mean, you know what? This is it, man. Like I wish I had my sunglasses. I could put them on because AJ Brown just has that dog in him, man. 13 targets, 10 receptions, 155 yards. Like, it's a shame he didn't find the end zone, but like, God, him and Jalen Hurts are looking like such a sweet deal for fantasy because Hurts also had 17 carries, 90 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Just disgusting. Actually, all the Philadelphia running backs had a score. I did want to. Sorry, you were saying?
Well, no, I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is someone who we were drafting a lot of late, and I mean, it looks like he's definitely the second running back here. I mean, maybe third if you count Hurts. He did have 4 targets, but do you think he'll have a role as long as Miles Sanders is healthy? Or
I think they all will, man. It looked like yeah, this is a team that is excited to really milk away and salt away the clock. I think they've got a much better feel for what they want to be. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a lot to go around. Devonta Smith did himself no favors. 0 of his 4 targets for 0 yards. I mean, he's going to have to make more of his opportunities because there won't be a lot there. What was interesting was Gainwell saw 4 targets, so about, twice that of what Sanders saw. It's a very few because AJ Brown just dominated that target share, but these guys are going to have to win on efficiency, and Devonta Smith was winning on efficiency last year, so I think that's going to be good. I think that works out.
Yeah, do you think that this is like a really bad sign for Devontae going forward, or would you expect to see more of the passing game swing back his way in future weeks?
No, I think for Devonta Smith, you just have to just plug him in because if you needed like a flex, like I'm still flexing him despite taking 0s this week, and I'm still going to be flexing him. It sucks. It's not what I want to do, but it's the way it goes. Good comment here by Joe King, just saying Philadelphia running backs are only best ball viable. This does feel true. I did want to. I mean, there's just so much going on here that we can discuss, but I just wanted to briefly discuss Saquon Barkley, who had himself a day in the Giants' win over the Titans, man. 18 carries, 164 yards on the ground and a score, 7 targets, 6 catches for 30 yards. He's back, right?
I mean, I think so. This was the exact kind of game we were hoping to get when we were taking him, at the end of the first round and saying he's one of the few running backs in the league that you can legitimately say has that JT CMC upside.
Oh yeah.
So, such a good value if he's going to provide these kind of points, even in the first round, because you didn't have to pay JT or CMC prices. But yeah, obviously he looked good. It was kind of, even in a low scoring game, I think this was exciting to see. And I mean, hopefully this Wan'Dale Robinson injury isn't too serious, but
they instantly ruled him out with a knee issue, man. That scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
From a rookie perspective, on the other side, Tennessee did pretty well. Burks has that dog in him, and he's out of the house. He saw 5 targets, got 3 of those for 55 yards. Phillips saw 9 targets, got 6 of those for 66 yards. Robert Woods trending towards dust, man. 2 targets, 1 catch for 13 yards.
Now, would you rather start next week Derrick Henry or Dontrell Hilliard?
That's a fun one, right? Because Hilliard got 3 of those 4 targets for 2 scores. I think you still got to just. Well, I think you got to go with the first round running back. No, yeah. I mean, obviously you're gonna stick with Henry, but serious gap here, man. Henry still has those breakaway performances coming, but oof.
Devin McIntyre wrote Hilliard up in our Guy Behind the Guy article as
that's true,
the guy you need to watch out for. So he's always someone who I want to listen to whenever he writes anything. I pay attention, so I think he might be onto something here.
He might be onto something. All right, we can close it out with the Raiders losing to the Chargers, if only because I wanted to talk a little bit about Adams again. 10 catches on 17 targets for 141 yards and a score. Hunter Renfrow, the guy who took over when Waller was hurt and they didn't have anybody else to throw to, 6 targets, 3 catches, 21 yards, and no scores.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some concern about players changing teams, not only because the numbers don't necessarily bear out that they're going to still be good, but also, just the changing situation. But yeah, Adams really showed that he's just an elite talent, and it doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. Is Derek Carr maybe better than Aaron Rodgers anyway?
I mean, did you see Rodgers today?
Yeah.
They had to play. Jordan Love got in the game for a little bit. Rodgers always looked very poor without Devontae Adams, and this just sort of kind of confirms it, right?
Yeah.
Well, he really needs his rookie wide receivers to step up. Romeo Doubs got 4 of his 5 targets for 37 yards. Christian Watson got 2 of his 4 targets for 34 yards. Watson also got a very deep end zone target that he didn't convert on. So yeah, keep your eyes out on those, because those are guys who might become spot starts. Here's something that's fun. So Aaron Rodgers had 195 passing yards. Justin Jefferson had 184 receiving yards for 2 scores on 9 catches.
Yeah,
disgusting.
I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know. It's hard to write off Aaron Rodgers this early in the season, but definitely didn't look good. The good news is it looks like both Dylan and Aaron Jones are going to be involved in the rushing and receiving game, so they might end up turning into a value. Maybe leading the team in receiving, even. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we still have it's just such an exciting time, and I'm glad for everyone who came out and hung out with us in the chat. But we still have 2 more teams left to go: Tampa Bay, Dallas, and Denver, Seattle. What are you hoping to see for look for when you're looking at these 2 games?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the two tight ends in Denver and Seattle are guys I've been loading up on. I'm interested to see how they're used. Obviously, Sutton versus Judy is a thing we need to be paying attention to. I mean, Chris Godwin coming back maybe will be on a snap count, but it'll be exciting to see him back catching passes again. So yeah, we should have some good football. And of course, CeeDee Lamb without Amari Cooper is just going to go ballistic.
I'm actually kind of interested in seeing what Noah Brown does because I got him for a penta team. I'm kind of convinced that he is going to play above Jalen Tolbert. Like he might be the wide receiver 2 until Gallup comes back. So I see him as a more long term play. So I'm interested in that. On the Buck side, I'm looking for Chris Godwin, man. Like, how does he look coming off that tear? Does he have that God in him, much like James Robinson? TBD. On Denver, Seattle, I'm interested in seeing exactly how much Benny gets spelled because there's probably going to be no Ken Walker.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see and who gets that work. Is it DJ Dallas or is it Travis Homer? I would assume to see like a mix of all three. I want to see how they work in Fant because he is also someone who is going very, very late and like a best ball share, like best ball teams could be riding on that guy showing up. On Denver side, like realistically, I want to see that split between Javonte and Melgo, man. If it's like 55-45, then I'm interested in seeing exactly what the red zone touches look like, and I'm really, really interested in seeing Albert O's role next tomorrow night.
For sure, it'll be definitely a lot of good football to watch and a lot of things to pay attention to that could have big impacts for our fantasy squad. So should be a good time. Yeah, that'll wrap it up for us in week 1, I think, unless there's anything else.
No, man, just want to thank everyone who hung out in the chat. I hope you all are enjoying this. If there's any feedback, feel free to tweet at us at Am I the Real Blair or at HRF5010. Anything you want us to do differently, or if you're enjoying this format, if there's any questions, feel free to also tweet them at us, and we'll do our best to try and respond. But yeah, man, I'm just glad the NFL is back. I'm excited. I'm hoping everyone had a fast start.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the RotoViz YouTube channel if you haven't already. And rate and review the RotoViz Radio podcast feed as well as the Fantasy Football Report podcast feed. That really helps us out with the algorithm. Till next time, we'll see you later.